We're going to go through a sequence called the Tekken Sequence. The root of the Tekken Sequence is the Tekken pose, right? What is the Tekken? What does the word Tekken mean? The word Tekken is spelled, let me move this a little bit. The word Tekken is spelled T-E-K-E-N. And the Tekken is the ancient Egyptian rectangular symbol that has a pyramid at the top. So it's a stone, what they call an obelisk. It's like 200, 300, 400 feet tall, sometimes even up to 500 feet tall. And they have the pyramid at the top. And what it represents is the unity of the earth and the heavens. So what is the ancient Kemetic word for the earth? It's called Geb, G-E-B. What's the Kemetic name for the heavens? The heavens is the filaments of the heavens, of the sky. It's where the stars, the sun, the moon, the planets, asteroids, meteorites, all those things are located, right? The heavens, that's what we see when we look up. And so the name for that is Nut, N-U-T, N-U-T, like nut. And Geb, the earth, is a male principle. So Geb is always visualized as a male. Nut is always visualized or symbolized as a female. At the time of the beginning of creation, before creation started, that time before creation started is called Zep Tepi. Zep, Z-E-P, Tepi, T-E-P-I. And Zep Tepi means the time before time began, before you had what we call the temporal world, the world of phenomenology. How do we judge time and space? We judge time and space from our perspective. We know time because we're on a planet. The planet rotates, right? And it rotates every 24 hours. And it's in relationship to the sun. And when it goes away from, when we're standing on the planet here, and the planet turns away from the sun, we call that nighttime. When the planet comes back to the sun, we call it daytime. And we know that it takes 24 hours for it to make that whole revolution. So we also know that the earth orbits around the sun, right? And so it takes 365 days or 364 and 1/4 days, something like that, in order to make that cycle. And that's how we judge time, by the cycles and the movements of heavenly bodies. So at Zep Tepi, there was no movement, there was no heavenly bodies. So there was no such thing as time. And so time did not exist. And the Creator commanded that this universe that we call the world of phenomenon, things that are occurring that we can see, that we can observe. That's what phenomenons are, events. He commanded that these things begin to take place. And so Geb, the earth, the male principle, was at the bottom. Nut, the sky, the female principle, was on top. And they were in what I would call sacred population. And the creator assigned Shu. Shu is spelled S-H-U. Shu is the breath. And I'm always talking about we are surrounded by the breath. We are surrounded by Shu. Just like a fish in a fishbowl or in the ocean is in a water medium that surrounds and sustains that fish, we are in an air medium. We are in a medium of Shu that sustains us and allows us to stay alive. Because without this medium of Shu, of air, of life force, of energy, we would pass away in about 5 minutes. Okay? So even though it is invisible, it is tasteless, it is smellless. It is the most important substance that we have that allows us to have life. And so the creator, who we would call Amen, assigned Shu to come in between Geb and Nut and to separate them. And so we see images of Shu in this position. And so Shu is here and his arms are raised and he is separating Geb from the bottom and Nut at the top above. And he forms the sky, the heavens, and he forms the earth. Geb is left on the ground like this, or at the bottom like this, and he has an erect phallus, or what in ancient Kemetic they call the hinenum, not the phallus, but the hinenum, but it's the penis. And that penis, or that creative mechanism, is what we call Teken, okay? And so that's where the Teken comes from. So that's the origin of some of these ideas. In yoga, if you went to India, you went someplace in India to study yoga, they would tell you the stories of how these different positions came, these different postures and positions came into being. They would talk about the warrior pose. And they would say that Krishna's wife was murdered, and that in order to get revenge, Krishna practiced the warrior pose. So everybody knows the warrior pose, because everybody in yoga, everybody does warrior 1, 2, and 3. So Krishna practiced the warrior pose to make his body strong so that he can then go and avenge his wife and all this kind of stuff, right? Well, the story I just told you, this story of creation, and this story of how Geb, Nut, and Shu came into existence, this is our yogic story, because we do those same postures, right? We do those same poses. And they have an origin, they have a mythology with them, they have a legend with them, and the stories are not to be taken literally. The stories are metaphors for understanding larger principles that are at play in life, to give us an understanding of morality, to give us an understanding of how things come into existence, to give us an understanding of the mechanisms by which the universe operates, right? What is generally called mythology is designed to teach us lessons. We know that in a traditional African society, we have a person called the griot, right? And the griot is the person who is the depository of all the knowledge and all the wisdom of the culture. And he or she communicates this information to the community in order to allow the members of the community to have an understanding of how they should think, how they should behave, what values they should have, or to give them a moral compass to allow them to become truly human and to behave in a truly human manner, okay? And that's what we should be getting from our African stories. And so when we're talking about healing trauma, right? When we talk about healing racial trauma, we're talking about how are we able to restore the psychology? How are we able to restore the mind of the African? The mind that has been systematically taken away, the mind that has been removed from the stories and the traditions that we used to have. These stories and these traditions and the rituals that we used to go through, those rituals and stories, those are what used to become embedded into our DNA. They used to become embedded into our genes, and they were passed on from mother to child. Now we are passing on a different story. We are passing on a story of trauma, enslavement, oppression, torture, right? And so this is getting embedded into our genetic code. And so that's why we have to do things like the movements and the movements and the postures and the practices of yoga. But we also need to have yoga and our culture. We need to do this from our own African culture, not from the Indian culture, not from Hindu culture. Knowing about Krishna is not going to help us. We need to know about our Sar. We need to know about our Set. We need to know about Heru. We need to know about Sekhmet and Selket and Amun Min and so on and so forth, because they carry our genetic heritage. And they are the ones that's going to restore us when we begin to bring consciousness of our own ancestors and our own divine entities back into our consciousness, okay? And that's why we do Kemetic yoga. And that's why we do Kemetic yoga as a tool to help us to heal on the deepest levels that we have been damaged on, okay? So, so I want to give you a little bit of introduction. So we're going to go through the Tekken sequence, right? And so think about what I was just saying. Think about the significance and the meaning of what I was saying and why it's important to use, cultural component to our healing, as opposed to just pure psychological or just a clinical, like a hard code clinical approach, okay? And we're going to talk more about this when we get to the lecture portion, okay? But let's just go through Tekken Sequence. So with Tekken Sequence, now we got the Tekken pose, which is the first posture within the sequence. In Tekken Sequence, we're gonna what's the word I'm thinking about? We're gonna morph, M-O-R-P-H. We're going to morph from one posture into the next. Each one of the postures is a different Kemetic Netaru. What does Neteru mean? Neteru would be the equivalent of what the European people call the gods and goddesses or the deities, except Neteru is much more than gods and deities. Neteru represents divine forces of nature. They represent divine principles that underlie all of creation. The Neteru are aspects of the one creator. The Europeans, they try to tell us that our ancestors believed in many different gods, right? And they use the word gods and goddesses. Our ancestors believed in one creator. They use the word Neter, N-T-R, to represent the creator. They use the word Neteru to represent the different aspects of the creator. So the sun is a Neteru. They call it Ra. The earth is a Neteru. They call it Geb. The heavens is a Neteru. They call her Nut, right? So on and so forth. And so these are different cosmic forces that play a different role in creation. And so as we morph from one of these Neteru into the next, we are playing out the process of creation within ourselves. And we are imitating that process of creation, which in turn is allowing us to have this creative process occur within us, physically, mentally, spiritually, okay? And so we're talking about doing some very, very fundamental and powerful work when we go through a sequence like Ma'at Ka. Ma'at Ka encompasses the pose of Asar, rejuvenation, revitalization, and resurrection. The pose of the Tekken Sequence involves the pose of Selket, representing protection, healing, and restoration. The pose, the Tekken Sequence involves the pose of men, or Amun men, which represents the idea of fertility and female fertility and male virility, and the ability to create and to procreate, okay? So we're working all of those different things into ourselves, and we rejuvenate and revitalizing ourselves on those levels as we go through these sequences. So this is beyond Hatha yoga. This is beyond doing yoga because I want to stretch my hamstrings, and stuff like that. So, Tekken sequence. We start off with the feet together, two big toes touch together, and the heels separate slightly. We take the hands and we go into Kemetic palms. We press the arms down next to the body. We lift the chest. We press the shoulders down. We take the arms and we rotate them from the shoulders. And then we begin to breathe in and we lift the arms up until we get them about 3/4 of the way up. And then with the exhalation, we bring the hands together. With the inhalation, we tilt the head halfway back. And with the exhalation, we release the neck and we allow the head to go back all the way. As we breathe in, we bring the head up straight. We let the back of the hands come together and we slowly exhale the palms down next to the body, and we feel the energy surrounding the body. We breathe in, we shift the hips back, and we slowly begin to bend forward as we exhale. we try to get the knuckles or the back of the fingers to come down to the mat with the chin to the chest. As we breathe in, we reach the hands back and we hold on to the lower legs. As we exhale, we lower the head down, we bring the chin down towards the knees. As we inhale, we place the hands into a pyramid shape. And as we exhale, we want to place the palms down to the mat. We hold this position and we breathe in and we breathe out. We let the legs straighten. We breathe in and we rise up. Once the back is straight, we slowly exhale and we direct the weight. We direct the weight into the bottom of the feet and we send the energy through the arms into the hands. And then we let the legs straighten. Straight legs, straight back. We take the right hand and we place it right in front of the chest. We place the left hand to the back of the right hand and we place the thumbs together, making a pyramid shape. From here, we're going to breathe in and we slowly turn the body to the left, twisting the lower back, the middle back, and then the upper back. Now breathe in, slowly turn your head to the right as you exhale. On the inhalation, we turn the head over the chin, or the chin over the chest rather, head in the center of the body. And then with the exhalation, turn the head and look towards the left. Looking behind you, free the neck, release the shoulders downward, let the head turn. Feel all the nerve fibers in the neck opening up and firing, opening up the eyes, the sinuses, the ears, the centers in the brain. Now turn the head back to the center. And as you are breathing in, turn your body to the front. Once you get to the front, hold it and exhale. Now breathe in. And as you exhale, turn to your right. Your lower back turns first, your middle back second, and then your upper back. Once you get your entire spine into this twisting motion, your next step is to work the cervical vertebra of your neck. So you breathe in. Remember to keep the tip of the tongue connected to the roof of the mouth. And then slowly turn your head to the left as you are breathing out. As you are breathing in, turn your head to the center. As you are exhaling, turn your head to the right. Kind of turn each vertebra in your neck. Kind of open up all the centers, all the blood vessels, all the nerve endings going into the brain. Now turn your head back to the center. As you breathe in, turn your body back to the front. Now exhale. Now with your inhalation, let your arms rise. And with your exhalation, open up your arms and surround your body with energy and life force. I want you to really feel that energy coming from the palms of your hands. So it's like you have a circle or a halo or aura coming from the left hand to the right hand, coming from the right hand to the left hand. Your arms are slightly bent with your palms facing forward. Tip of the tongue connected to the roof of your mouth. And you're breathing in and you are breathing out.